Two. Can you hear me? I wonder. So, yeah, another one of these streams. I'm going to show my sketchbooks and one sketchbook, and then hopefully do a drawing. I am prepared this time. I've got my graphitint. I forgot the name of it last time. And watercolors and pens and things like that. So hopefully I'll be able to do something. But I thought I'd start by, in every one of these streams, by doing a sketchbook showing of my work. And let's see. I can't easily see my my chat in this. Go on, can you show me? It might feed back if I do this. Probably will do. It might feed back if I do that. Yeah. Hello. But yeah, I was just watching Mowley Camping Rules Arcade stream when it's been live streaming down the motorway. So yeah, tonight is a Friday night. Now I'm thinking of doing these streams on Friday and Tuesday because those were the nights that I used to have my date nights with my partner. He died last year, and so it's kind of one of those nights where I always feel a bit kind of, yeah, weird and lonely. So I'm gonna devote those nights, and maybe Sundays. I was thinking 2 to 3 times a week doing sort of like these sort of streams. So yeah, because the first one I did a Tuesday just by accident. I thought, well, Friday is the obvious one, and then maybe a Sunday. If I've got a video coming out, I might do a stream after the Sunday. So yeah, and I forgot to actually do the candle. I'll do it now. There's I'm trying to knock over the. There's John. This place is a complete mess, I know. There's John. John has a little shrine by the window. He gets to be by the window, and he also gets to have a rainbow unicorn. And that was a stone I found on a trip. I brought him back a little trip, but we always light the candle for John every Friday. He gets opera on Saturdays, and that's John. So yeah, the candle is ready. That's good. So we can get back. Hopefully, you see the tripod's in the way, unfortunately. And someone's in the chat. Oh, hello. Hello, I'm cool. Hi. I'm just going to go through my old sketchbooks, well, one of my sketchbooks, and okay. Pal5555 says, hi, have you let yourself go since John died? No, this place is cleaner than it was. John was a hoarder. He hoarded things. He hoarded paper, and I had to throw away about 20,000 pieces of paper. So yeah, the flat is better than it was, although it's still got lots of stuff in it. It's yeah, you see boxes and stuff because we had to give it the storage. So yeah, it's better than it was. It had like piles of paper on the floor and kind of his notes and things like that everywhere. Pal555 says, I live alone, single guy, I can't be bothered sometimes. And hi, Deft Hat. Yeah, I would be the same. It's kind of difficult to get kind of motivated in sort of cleaning this place when it's just me, really. So yeah, once a week I go mad trying to tidy up. Well, I do some tidying up, but as I say, I'm still not sure if I'm going to stay here. It's kind of a difficult thing. I might have to sell the place. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So, I mean, it was his flat, but I inherited it. So, yeah, I don't know. So I'm a bit, about doing stuff. Hello, BB does stuff. YT, welcome. Where am I? I'm in London, and I'm in sort of southwest London. But yeah, I don't know if I want to stay because it was his choice to be here. The place you can probably see these are his books. Well, actually, the ones I'm keeping, although there's some of them which are rare books or older books which I want to sell. And so, but he had hundreds of books which I got rid of quite a few of them. That was Oxfam benefited because actually I gave away some books. They said, "Oh, thanks for that book. It's worth 200 quid." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that," because he'd written in it. But apparently, so yeah, they probably got some valuable books by accident. Yeah. I could easily slip into becoming a hoarder. I think anyone with a bent for collecting is prone to it. It says Daft Hat. Yeah, it's why I don't collect things. The only thing I ever collected is I used to collect Peter and Jane books. I've got a small collection of those, and obviously records. I have all my records, my vinyl, and that's why I don't have more space. Is because what came from storage is 12 massive crates, which was my stuff. Most of it was his, which I cleared out, but there's my stuff. I still know what to do with all my CDs and records and everything. But yeah, I've got some valuable books, actual properly valuable books. Yeah, I need to sell some of them because I don't want them here. But yeah, he collected Victorian and earlier books, so some of them are kind of like priceless type books. So anyway, let's show some artwork. I'll get you set up. Hopefully. So yeah, this is. I have to hide that. I do not want to dox myself because yeah, every one of my sketchbooks has my name and number in. So I don't want to. Let's lower you down. Sorry about the tripod being in the way. There's nothing I can do about that. It was like I tried to work out a way of having this over somehow, and this is the best I can do really. And there's a painting of John. I showed that in the last stream. That's John. Currently covering up some terrible stuff. So yeah, this is some of my drawings from the river. I think this could be. I don't know if this is. I know it isn't from the times of lockdown, but it could be. But yeah, there's various regatta drawings all done on the fly. I like drawing. There we are. I like drawing. Usually my drawings are more finished. These are actually more like proper sketches, because they are. I did these as the sort of sailing dinghies sailed by. So I'm actually doing these in a few seconds for each, or kind of like maybe 30 seconds for each. So working very quickly. Whereas that's kind of more, the one that's in the thumbnail, this one, is more more of a finished piece. A lot of my sketchbooks are kind of like this. You shouldn't really do this you shouldn't be do this with sketchbooks. You shouldn't. I ended up doing like completed pieces, you know, like this. Again from the regatta, I think. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, can we show this one? Yeah, oh, that stuff over there. Ignore that stuff. I hid it last time. I should have hidden it this time. So yes, here's a sort of more boats on the river. I seem to be doing a lot of spreads in this one, which are difficult to show you. I could show you like that, but then you'd have to move your everyone would have to move their hand, you know, their head to the side. So yeah, lots of boats on the river. Oh, and that's down in Canbury Gardens. It was a jazz group playing in the I forgot what they're called, right? Bandstand. But this is more what I used to do, which is work that is. Let's move you down. This is more the work I used to do, which is fountain pen and then wash, which I might do some wash work if I do a drawing. As I say, I stopped doing drawings when John died, so it's yeah. When John died, yeah, he was my biggest fan and my biggest patron, and I show him everything. And that's one of the reasons why I stopped, because it was just without him. I was like, well, you know, it was like, what is the point? That's coloured pencil, and that's more of my abstract work, which is the Eversharp. I used to write down what pens I was using each one. Actually, that's probably when I got the Eversharp. Wow, yeah, I used to work really heavily in pencil. What I used to do is wet the page and then like work, and it used to go through the page. It's really, you know, it destroys pages, this, and yeah, it just goes. But I love the colours. If you get like colour pencil, and then you use it really wet, you know, on wet, it becomes quite colourful. So I used to do stuff like that. That I think is watercolour. Ah, now we're getting into some of the Jurassic Coast paintings. So this is from near Weymouth. This is the White Horse at, I'm trying to remember the name of the place. Uffington, not Uffington. But yeah, that's a White Horse on the hill near Weymouth. I was camping in a place near there, and yeah, kids were. This is just around the corner from the campsite, which is on the cliffs near Weymouth, or just before Weymouth. It's a few miles just before Weymouth on the Jurassic Coast. This is gouache, I think. And this is me trying to paint paintings, paint waves. Is anyone out there? Any new people in? Yeah, this is gouache, and this is graphitin. I just say I didn't remember the name of it in the last stream. I was like, oh, this pencil stuff that you use, and this is this stuff. And I might do some work with it later. And it is it is basically the stuff you get in pencils. It's like coloured graphite in sort of watercolour pencils, or it's related to Inktense. Derwent do Inktense, which is similar. So it's kind of like Inktense, but in these, and Inktense as well is like a coloured graphite, and you know it dries quite flat like this. So it's like very sort of flat, and you can actually sort of rub it out as well. It's quite mad stuff, but you know, you can layer it. But once it kind of dries, it's sort of water soluble. But then you can actually go through and rub it out if you need to. But it's very colourful, but it dries very flat like this. Hello. Oh, so Daft Hat is washing up. That's what it is. Now this is Durdle Door. I don't know if any of you have been to Durdle Door in Dorset, but this is a brush pen and wash painting of that. Osmington. I've actually written it here. Osmington White Horse. That's Osmington. There's Parisenders above Osmington. White Horse. It's because what I did is I did the whole of the Jurassic Coast, which is from Studland, Bournemouth area, all the way down to Exmouth, and I did it in several things, several stretches, and yeah, this is the genesis of the channel was those trips, which I was staying in campsites, but then doing like, I don't know, 12, 15 mile walks a day or 10-mile walks of each stretch, and then doing drawings and paintings of it. And I thought, oh well, I started doing video work when I was doing that. And I don't know if that's, you can see that, but yeah, and that's Dungy Head, the lovely name Dungy Head, and there's you can see there's a little person on top. Yeah, so I loved doing. What have I done with it? Oh, I know what I did. So here, I don't know if you can see. It's probably hard for you to see. If I show you close up. Yeah, I don't know if you can see here, those little bits. I used to draw with wax and then do a wash over it, so that it would work as a sort of wax resist. So often I would draw with wax, and then, you know, for some texture. So you like drawing white on white, so you can't see what you're doing, and then I would like reveal it by doing a wash over the top. I was a very big fan of doing that. But yeah, I eventually finished the walks, and then so I started doing the art hikes in the channel. But my first video was on one of those walks on this channel, or my third ever video. Emerson says, went to Durdle Door and walked up to it. Yeah, it is great. I've been there. I was camping at Durdle Door, and this is Durdle Door. I was camping at the campsite by Durdle Door, so I actually went down to Durdle Door at 4 in the morning, and went down the slippy rocks because it was like the middle of the night, and it was brilliant to be there with the moonlight and just looking at Durdle Door where everyone had gone at night. It was amazing with no one else down there. There's a lot of fog up on Durdle Door, the actual Durdle Door itself, which is the hill. This is the arch at Durdle Door, but it's not Durdle Door itself. But yeah, I love that, and it was not a great campsite, very expensive. I was under the rookery, and the rooks crapped on my tent. But it was a great place to camp though. And Fernblick says, back from the fire pit, now home again, surrounded by books, sketches and paintings. I like that you're not just showing the best of collection, but nearly everything. Yeah, yeah, I think it's interesting to show all my work, and you know, it's not, you know, not all of it's good, but it's. This is at Dungy Head as well. It's this sort of seaweed. Good ice cream at Lulworth Cove. Open my eyes to the fat folks smacked a giant fudge stick instead of a flake and ice cream. Lol. Not bad prices though in winter. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the campsite. Yeah, I wasn't so happy about the development of that place because they seem to be developing the headland, and it's like it's a site that shouldn't really have loads of mobile homes on it. This is Lulworth at night. So yeah, I stayed near Lulworth. So obviously you can't easily camp in Lulworth, but there are campsites outside of Lulworth. So yeah, I actually did paintings of Lulworth. Most of them were loose paintings of that actually. So I'd have to find them. And this is from a drawing from the roof of Lulworth Castle, because I walked from via the range. I ran out of water actually at the range. Irish Mell, which is Irish Mell is like in the distance here, and yeah, it's an army range, and there's no water there, and I ran out of water. And we were trying to filter. So amazing sort of angel gave me some water. You know, this is just a bypasser gave me some water because I was actually trying to filter water from the. I wasn't going to filter from this. There's a stream there, but the cows were crapping in it, so I didn't want to touch that one. So I actually was filtering from the trying to filter from a puddle, and it wasn't working very well. Oh, that's at Lulworth Castle, and this is Moop Bay. Emerson says, I had the odd joy of staying in the YHA before it turned into private hire. Yeah, Lulworth Youth Hostel, was that? Yeah, this is Moot Bay. I showed a painting from Moot Bay in the last stream, but I actually I actually went back there. This is the first time I went to Moot Bay, and then I went back there to do the painting. It was a bit of a kind of, I had to walk through the range part to get back to Moot Bay to do the painting, so it's like it was a bit of a kind of an arrangement. This is all woody pencil. I mentioned woody pencils. The Stabilo woody pencils are kids' pencils. This is woody pencil, and that's sheep grazing at Moop. At Moop, there is like a lot of that area, there is a pillbox or coastal defences. It says W2 Arctic, so obviously it's called Arctic Defences. And there's more woody pencil of Moop. And that's a Lion Rock in Moop Bay. And that's more of the Lion Rock. It's called the Lion because it's shaped like a lion. And that's from, oh yeah, Winfrith Newbow, which I was staying in Winfrith Newbow at the Red Lion, I think. One of the days. Corfe Castle. I showed the paintings of Corfe Castle in the last stream, so if you want to check it out, after this, go and look at the video. And that is St Edward's at Corfe. And that is, I don't know what that is, I think it's pencil. Looks like pencil, yeah, it's pencil, and then watercolour. Could even be woody pencil, but I think it's normal pencil. Yeah, more Corfe Castle, that was at night. Turner didn't paint Corfe Castle at night, I did. Oh, and that's the cafe. I stayed at Corfe quite a few times. It's a good place to base yourself from. Yeah, it's the Model Village Cafe. And this is Corfe Castle. So this is graphite pencil, I think, and watercolour. They call it the Tumble. It's the Corfe Castle was demolished during the Civil War, and they used 200 pounds, I think, or maybe 200, probably 200 kilograms. Lots of gunpowder, and they just blew it up because there was a siege there for a long time, and eventually, when the siege ended, they just blew it up. So hence all these cracks, and why a lot of the castle ended up basically on the sides of the hills, just demolished. And they were very proud. I mean, I don't think it was one of the eagles, but there was actually nesting eagles when I was there. Yeah, that's more from Corfe Castle. It's hard to show you. Yeah, that wasn't really finished. I like this one. Again, I think that's, at that time I was using a lot of graphite pencils, or charcoal pencils. It might have been charcoal pencil actually. And that's the sheep on the sides of the thing. And yes, this is Swanage Bandstand. And this is where I'm being very, very kind of, I'm being very, yeah, he says. I'm being very representational. That's not the kind of thing you should be doing in a sketchbook. Really, really accurate stuff, but I would sometimes do that. And again, that's from Dilston Castle. I was staying near Dilston Castle at a very strange campsite, which is next to a quarry. I wouldn't recommend it. It's a place called California Farm. The woman running it was really weird as well. So yeah, but I love the sort of Spanish style of that. And you can't get into the Tillywim caves anymore, which are actually old mine works. But people do go in very naughtily because you've kind of got a block here, and you can climb into it if it's quite dangerous, but people do, but they shouldn't do because it's collapsing. But yeah, but they used to be open in the 17th and 1800s. They were quite a famous tourist site, and you see people standing. For scale, that's how big they are. Dancing Ledge, yeah. I actually went down to Dancing Ledge. I had my pack on, and I actually went. You've got to climb down like 6 feet, like a vertical drop, to get to the Dancing Ledge. This is like a swimming pool. Cracking section views from Kingston coming into Corfe Common. That shows Corfe Castle guarding a gap in Purbeck, says Emerson. Kingston, yeah, I remember Kingston coming into Corfe Common. Yeah, I actually walked through Kingston, because it's funny because I live near Kingston here, and it was like, oh, there's another Kingston. You find Kingstons all over the country, and yeah, I actually walked through Kingston because I was trying to get to the coast. Because what I was trying to do is, the second time I was there, is walk to Kimmeridge and walk through Kimmeridge Ranges before they closed it, and they closed the Kimmeridge Ranges at September, and I was just literally right at the end of August, and so I had one day to do it, and it was 25 degrees, and I walked 21 miles that day, and it nearly killed me. That was the way I ran out of water. Regarding the Civil War castle description, Helmsley Castle is quite a sight. The tower is bisected like someone cut it across it sectionally. Oh, I've not been to Helmsley. That's Daft Hat. But yeah, no, I like Kingston. But yeah, I had to walk through there several times to get to the coast, to walk bits to Kimmeridge, and then it was quite hard. There's not very many, there's no transport links to Kimmeridge itself. There's no buses or anything. So you really have to walk there and walk back again. Hence why I did like 21 miles in a day, just to walk kind of like a sort of 10-mile section. I had to walk like, 6 or 7 miles there and back or so. It was a bit of a kind of a thing. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, this is, I booked a table, hence the Tim at 7:30. My name's Tim, by the way, and this is actually done in the pub. And you can see there's little bits that I was drawing stuff from memory and then drawing this stuff on the table at the same time. So it's like, you know, you can see the bits of the Durlston Castle and, you know, Tillywim Caves and things like that. But there's also like the drinks and the you know, I think that's the vinegar bottle and stuff. So it's like it's a, yeah. I think it was the end of one of the trips I did that. Views of Chapman's Pool, the thinking person's Lulworth, says Emerson. Yeah, I went to Chapman's Pool. I love, one of my favourite named places around there is Seacombe Bottom, which is quite funny. Makes me think of Harry Seacombe. I ran out of water there when I first walked that area. I walked to, well before I did this, many, many years before, I tried walking from Swanage, and I didn't realise how rough the coast was, but also how distant it was from any water, and I had to abandon it, and that's why I carry a water filter nowadays. Well, these are abstracts, so. Semaphore. I didn't name these, I don't know why I named this. That's the, well, I can't remember where that is actually. Well, that's the River Thames, and Fernblick says surrealism or natural journaling. It's a bit of both, really. I'm going to do one later. I'm going to do one in a little bit. One of these abstracts, and you'll see it's not doodling because it's more conscious than that, but it is abstraction. So I like to take shapes of what I'm seeing. I used to do bus journeys and just draw at things from outside the window on one page. So it'd be like a document of the journey, and you'd like see bits of signs and things like that. But then it's like a collage of the journey, but just from little bits that you saw along the bus journey. So I used to draw a lot on buses, which is a skill in itself. And so they're kind of either symbols that I'm seeing in front of me, or they're kind of just made up, but they all have they'll have a meaning. They get meaning after a while. So it's surrealism, really, but not really surrealism in that sense. It's more abstraction. That's well, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's big. That's ink brush. That's ink brush and wash. Oh, this is Box Hill. Yeah, I've done so many drawings. This has appeared a lot in my. This place has appeared a lot in my videos. It's a zigzag road. At Box Hill, me and Paul, and also me and Molly have got video and photographs of us walking up here. And yeah, it's a place that I do a lot of, or did a lot of drawing and painting. Oh, and yeah, I do a lot of portrait work. That Sim of the Daft Hat says, have you ever done any continuous drawing? I had a go during lockdown, made a mistake. I don't really know if you mean what you mean by continuous drawing. I mean, do you mean putting the pen on the page and not bringing it out? I've done those studies, or do you mean like working on a large sheet of paper? I haven't done the large sheet of paper one, but I have done the sort of continuous drawing with leaving the pen on the paper and not lifting it. That's always an interesting study. Daftat says, bus drawing kind of like a very long exposure camera shot. Yeah, kind of in a way, but you wouldn't be the same because it's all, I mean, I don't know if I have an example of them. It would be in one of these. Oh, let's see. Yeah. There we are, drawing on the bus. Don't know if I could find an example of it. They're very specific, kind of like, you've got like images of things along the route of the journey. So there's like signs and drawings of what's there. Yeah, I don't think any of these are actual. There's a few bus drawings, but nothing. Yeah, nothing actually. Oh, I've lost the chat. The pen is kept moving without stopping, a bit like a snake with a pen. Yes, I have done those studies. It's a classic thing you do in art school. You do a lot of that sort of work in art school. It's a classic sort of, you know, and also life drawings love doing that as well. You see more drawing on buses. I didn't usually draw people, but occasionally I would draw people who were sleeping. I'd go out clubbing, and I'd take a sketchbook and a pen, and then do a drawing on the way back. That's one, I think. So you can see there's a co-op sign, and there's a little sign, and there's a square. But you can also see the shape of the seats, and also bits of the bus coming in. So here's the bits of the bus. But also some of these shapes would have been stuff I saw outside the window, or rubbish on the floor, or, you know, or the co-op sign, for instance, or whatever. Sometimes traffic signs. I mean, that might be a traffic sign. So, yeah. So whereas that I would do representational stuff like that, I would also do this sort of stuff where it was like a journey, and I can tell that it was in '87 because I'd often name it the route of the bus. The name of the piece would be the route of the bus. I'm surprised there aren't more people doing stuff like this. There's another one. So yeah, another piece. Emerson asks, is it or a mass observation element of natural elements and social diaries? Kind of, yeah. I mean, this work, the abstract work, is more about my mental state. It's very kind of personal. It's my most personal work, and people don't get it because it's very. I think that's Box Hill. Yeah, it's Box Hill. They generally don't get it because it's very. Maybe not. Yeah, I can usually tell how it's done, what my mental state was. Avoiding all responsibilities actually has a name. I generally don't name things, but at this point I was seemingly naming stuff. I never sign my sketchbooks, and I never actually name things usually. This is called Too Polite, apparently. Caran d'Ache, yeah. So that's kind of lots of worked Caran d'Ache with pencil, usually with a lot of water. You get these very bright colours when you do that. But yeah, I can usually tell by the marks and what the symbols are, because each symbol means something, what kind of mood I was in. Yeah, that wasn't a good mood. What is it called? No, Stabilo All. No, that's not a name. Sparker, hi guys, sorry I'm here, but I'm distracted by the zombie game I'm playing. Oh good, that's fine. This is using the graphitint. So that's graphitint. I loved how that worked. I'll probably use some graphitint tonight. Yeah, it didn't always work, the whole pencil thing. Sometimes, I love the colour, but sometimes it just didn't work. You couldn't really rework it. Oh, that's the South Bank. And that is, I think it's also a sculpture on the South Bank, I think. Yeah, it's the Father Thames I had in the previous stream. There's actually a bronze version at the Somerset House. That's me going abstract with something I'd already previously done. Going, whatever. Yeah, that wasn't a good portrait session. That is not good. Speedball wide, I know what it was, yeah. I mean, that's not a good state. More barge drawings. Yeah, these are early portrait drawings. I was usually better than that. Whoa, actually, it's that way around. Don't ask me how I know. Is there a Top Gear video game? Hi, hello Sparker. Fanblick says, do you also use smaller drawing formats in your hikes, like small sketching pads and minimal sets of drawing tools? Yes. I used to do a lot of hiking. Well, no, I do hiking. I do a lot of hiking. But I used to do some art hiking. And here is what I used to carry. I have a little palette, a little wooden palette. So it's like a little wooden palette for that. Some ink. And a little water cup. And usually, yeah, oh, a little bit of watercolour, that's extra watercolour. And then I used to have, or I do have, a variety of pens, technical pens, and also fountain pens. This is more than what I'd usually carry, actually. And then I would carry paper. I would carry a few pieces of paper. I wouldn't carry a full pad because it's too heavy. But I would carry paper. And I did used to do work. Some of my videos actually have hikes. Some of my videos have paintings in them. So I used to do, small, and I used to work A3 sometimes, but more later on it got harder to carry something with a hardback or a small portfolio. But I do have something for that. For the A3, I would, so I actually went more A4. But I used to carry good paper, like Fabriano paper. To do this off screen. I like that one actually. So I'll probably do something like that actually now. So I'll find a sketchbook. Which one? Hello Sid. Hi Tim, quite new here, but you know the precise name of the sketchbook you are showing. I'm tired of thin paper and poor quality books. Right, yeah, the sketchbook I was showing is called the Enviro, which is from Artway. You probably can't see that. It's kind of faded. There we are. So that's the Enviro Artway. They're pretty good. They're like 250, I think, 250 or 300 GSM. And pretty cheap actually, especially if you're a student. They've got a student discount, which I had for a long time, even though I stopped being a student, which is a bit naughty. So they're good. Faber-Castell mixed media is pretty good. If you can afford it, go for this stuff, which is 1264 Fabriano. That's more watercolor paper. They do ones which are less watercolor paper. And they do varieties of, but they're very. If you do watercolor paper, they're very good, but they're a bit pricey. The other one is you could just use Dalo Aquafine or something like that, and that will survive quite a lot of abuse as well. But yeah, the Artway is a good value actually. I'd recommend. I don't want to just remember. I don't want to get these sketchbooks confused. Oh, there we are. I want to make sure that's not like that. How to keep the paper dry? Right. There are several ways of doing that. One, very simple. I don't dox myself. Something like this. You get these little plastic paper protectors, which are quite thin. So you can you know, you can use something like this, or you could use a plastic documents wallet. But the nice thing about these things, the little plastic sort of paper storage things, is they actually keep things flat, they don't bend. But what you can do also is use a plastic wallet and then put a piece of card in or something like that, or something hard to protect it. And then you can also then use that as a surface for when you're drawing. I also have something, I don't know if it's around. I also have a plastic documents wallet, which is a 3, which is a bigger one. It's a bit like a small, like a thin portfolio, and that also works very well as well. Yeah, I recommend the Artway. They're really, really good. So, what do you prefer, ink and graphitint, or do you want me to do a? Because I either do this, you can either work with these, which are paint sticks. I have a whole load of these. Or I'll do something with A3, or we can do some sort of ink work, and then I think I might use the graphitint. We can do both, really. But yeah, this is quite nerve-wracking because, as I say, I've not done anything. I have not done a drawing in 15 months, 14 months, no, 15, about 15 months. You know, and it's quite a nerve-wracking thing. Hey, there's woody pencils. Hey, you can even just name that. Mixed media. Wow, I'm just going through on my old. This is my old. There's my fountain pens, which I might have to try and fill them up, but it's probably easier to use when it's not a fountain pen at the moment. Those are the Lyras I mentioned in the previous stream. These are the Lyras, which are water soluble, which are really cool. But yeah, don't know how much this is still working. Let's do something. It will be crap. I warn you, it will be crap. It will not be good. Because I haven't done anything for such a long time that, you know, it's not going to be a brilliant piece of artwork. Yeah, I used to use a lot of rotring pens as well. So I might start with a rotring pen. Where's the ink? Let's get this out of the way. I'm drawing with you from distance. Go on, may the force be with you. Yeah. As I say, it'll be one of my abstract pieces, I think, because they're just easier to do, and they're, as I say, more of a personal thing. But this is rotring ink, which is it is permanent, so try not to get it everywhere. I will try not to get it all over myself. I probably will get it all over myself. This is what happens. Right, let's go. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first footstep, and let's start. Of course, we need scrap paper. Angles are always a good place to start. And I always love a spiral. I just love drawing them. The reason why this isn't a doodle is it's more conscious than a doodle. Doodles are kind of subconscious things. They're not. That's not throwing any shade on doodling. Doodling is important, but it's kind of a. There's more composition happens, but it kind of. I also aware that it tends to only make sense to me. Lots of arrows in these pieces. And if you're wondering, this is a, I think it's a 0.8. Yeah, 0.8 rotring pencil pen. Yeah, let's have the house. You see the, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what the little spirals mean, but I know what the house means. It is a. I've crossed it out. That's a bad thing. Anyway. House is to do with stability, and I call it the house shape. It started as a square, and then I started putting a thing above it, and then I realised it was a house shape. It usually means about my living situation. And for some reason, I really like drawing spheres, shaded spheres, and I've got no idea why. There's something I do. But yeah, all the usual symbols are in place. It's kind of a chance technique. Kind of. It's hard to explain. It's subconscious. It's like the things suggest themselves when I'm doing it. But also it is a thing that, you know, it happens while it's happening, and it is kind of not completely chance, because as you do something that controls, it's a bit like a game of consequences, but drawing. Almost like a game. It's like, no, I'm like, oh, it will. It's almost like a game of like, yeah, now I don't know where things should go. I'm a bit, oh, that's good. Yeah, I like reverse Uno. Hey. Because as you do one thing, something suggests itself there. It's kind of hard to explain. Most definitely it's not random. It is and it isn't. There's an element of randomness. That's how it says, have you ever created for any fictional characters surreal satires of people or attitudes? I don't really do that kind of caricatures. I used to draw cartoons when I was a kid. I wanted to be well, I don't know if I wanted to be a cartoonist, but certainly I loved Asterix, and I used to draw. I used to be able to copy things. Well, before well before things were, well before things were, things like photocopies were a thing. I used to be able to just sort of take pieces of, copy out things. It was my thing I did at school to impress people. It'd be like just taking asterisks and then just copying it out. So not sure why an N, but N suggested itself. Means to an end. Anyway. But yeah, it's kind of weird describing this because I've never actually filmed myself drawing one of these. I used to get told off for drawing because I don't draw defined lines. My art tutors used to tell me off for redrawing lines, but it's part of this process is redrawing lines. They'd say my work was like chicken scratch, but that's the point, is that I reject this idea of like, oh, you've got to have a defined line, defined bold line. It's like, ugh, I'm not Raphael. I'm not Michelangelo. Nor would I want to be. Well, maybe. Would be quite nice to be as good as them. But it's like that's not my style. But I used to get criticised for it, so it's it's taken me a long time to accept that I draw how I draw. I used to try and draw everything really kind of like with fluid lines and all bold lines. But and after I did my degree, I realised it was just. Well, that sort of criticism made me actually stop drawing for about 26 years. It was very, very bad. I also thought that drawing and painting was done for. Actually, it's quite funny. Now it might be because of AI, but back then it was very silly. But I was all into sort of video editing and sculpture and video sculpture and digital work, early digital work. We're talking about 95. I was doing stuff on computers when no one was working with computers. And yeah, it would. This is not sure this is making any sense, but anyway. I asked because I saw a character created by Clive Barker for his Abarat stories, called John Mischief. He carries his 7 brothers around as berries on a pair of antlers. That sounds very Norse. That sounds like something the Norse gods would do. Don't know. Yeah, this is random, but it's not bad. But the abstracts are what I used to draw for my own fun. If I just wanted to do some work, I would draw them, and it quite often would show my frustration and stuff, and a lot of personal stuff that I wouldn't necessarily have in my other work. And yeah, it's kind of odd because people didn't get it. They look at it and go, "What is this?" Yeah. Is that bad? I don't know. It's always difficult when you start to try and connect things, whether you're going to ruin them or not. It's part of the game. North, yeah, it's looking very compass-like at the moment. Oh, okay, that shape, fine. Yeah. Yeah, this one appears a lot as well. The angled thing that's kind of like almost like at the edge of a cliff. This one appears a lot. As to spirals, cross circles, that means negative. That this normal circles, that's quite normal. There's also planetoids as well, would appear. But yeah, the cross circle means a negative. You can guess what the house is. Never worked out what these little crystalline shapes were. They appear a lot in my work. But yeah, you draw how you draw. You can be glad we're not all standing in your room watching over your shoulder just through your phone. You're doing a pretty good job and you seem to be relaxed. Yeah, it's not bad for something that, I say, first drawing in like years. I'm sure people are like, what is this? But it's also, the best thing about these is entering into sort of a flow state. You sort of go into a thing where it's not happy about that, but anyway. Also, you can't really change. That's what the thing about ink is. You can't really change it, which is a problem, but also a blessing, because you have to work with what you've got. You have to work with if you do something and think, I don't like that. You have to kind of work with that, which forces you to work. Your process becomes more about working with what it's a good thing to have. It's a good skill to kind of work with, because I find I use that with my portraits when I was doing my portraits. That you'd kind of like know how to fix things on the fly, or kind of like just go, okay, well, we've done that before where it's kind of not worked. Okay, well, we know that we can do this to sort of set it and stuff like that. Let's have some cross hatching. I'm going to put some colour on. Yeah. Deftat says, I used to love the cover artwork on the old 8-bit computer games. In the 80s, the artwork was really good. The chances are the game was terrible. Yeah, they quite often spent more time doing the artwork than the actual game. They knew that they could sell. Usually it meant that they were trying to sell a game that wasn't very good. So which one? Because I've got two different sets here. We've got that one and that one. I think this one, but I used to use both. Ooh. Not totally sure about that. Ooh. I'm not sure that orange mixes that well. Is there a black? Yes. Ooh. So what's that? Looks like a dark green grey. Deftat says, never buy a LP based on the cover art. Chances are you'll end up listening to a lot of Wish. I don't know what Wish is. Oh, of course. Yeah, that's the only thing about the graphitint is you can't really mix it on the page. You can kind of, I've forgotten about it. You can overlay. When it dries, you can overlay like this. But you can't actually, unlike what would happen with watercolour is when you put it on, you can then lift it. You can't do that with this stuff. But it has its uses. Because, as I say, once you go over, you can sort of. Is there purple in here? No, that's not purple. That's more purple. Yeah. So you can actually go over like that and sort of make a sort of. Yeah, don't like that. Be gone. Something I used to do quite a lot is on the one hand, it was a selling point, says Fernblick. On the other hand, a longing for those games to one day look like they did on the cover. It was a long journey. Yeah, I really liked. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of the Sharp MZ8OK. My parents had terrible choice. They had terrible. They had terrible taste when it came to computer systems. They didn't understand. I, as a kid, understood this, which is you want to have something you can swap with your friends. I knew this as a child. They did not, and they were the IT professionals. So, yeah, I got the Spectrum because I knew I could swap it with my friends, and that survived a long time. But they got, it was the Sharp MZ8OK, and that had amazing, really amazing graphics. It was, I mean, not the graphics themselves, the actual games and the design of it was really cool. But the actual games themselves weren't that great. But the actual artwork around it, Google it, have a look at just the way they did it. All this for some reason, all this Viking stuff. It was all about this Viking search for the new world, and it was really, really cool. It's running away. It was really cool, and maybe that. I'm not sure about that, but anyway. And the games had amazing artwork and things like that, and but the platform died because no one was swapping games. Software piracy kept systems afloat, really. That was the unspoken thing of the 1980s, is that software piracy kept systems alive. Actually, it was all this, don't copy games. It was actually what kept the Amiga alive as well, was people copying stuff. I have to be careful with purple. Purple always takes over. You will notice a fair amount of purple in my work, and I'm always very wary of it. It's hey, trans colours. It's always good. I love the Spectrum, the Silex 8T processor. It was very easy to get into. Yeah. And to respond to Daft Hat, yeah. My sister was into Yes and ELP and stuff like that, and I liked Tubular Bells, but I absolutely hated most of the other stuff. I'm not a fan of prog rock. Yeah, as soon as someone starts to as soon as someone starts to do a solo of some sort, I'm out. But yeah, I love the Spectrum. It was I didn't do assembly, but I learned to program on it. I learned to program actually on the Sharp MZ8OK. But then I learnt more on the Spectrum, and I loved working on this. I love the Spectrum. I love the Amiga as well. MSX. Yeah, the Sharp MZ. No, though my parents did have an MSX machine. Not the MSX itself, but one based on the same stuff. They had something called the Memotech, which was another failed system. Another failed system. They're really good at getting failed systems. And I say they were the people that were supposed to know this stuff. I was just a kid. Not sure about happy about that. I was just a kid, swapping games in the schoolyard, But they were the ones that were supposed to know this stuff. They're the ones that worked in the industry, and I say all of their stuff failed horribly. So I had very early. It's weird because we didn't have any money, so I'm not exactly. I'm a bit confused. It might probably stuff my mother bought because we didn't have any money, right? I was always constantly told that and also food was limited in the house. I remember being starving. That was fun. So, but then we had home computers. MSX is popular as a QL. My mother had a QL as well. Ugh. So what I expect is that she probably bought the machines. Is probably what happened. And because when it came to dinner time, there was no money at all. That was my mother through and through. She was. I can't say what she was because I have to keep things relatively. We have to keep things within toss, and if I actually start talking about my mother, then there'll be lots of swearing. Things be. There will be lots of choice words. Yeah, my mother was a strange woman. But yeah, no, it's odd because as I say, I have these memories of like, oh, but we had this thing. It's like, but why? What? Why was I wearing hand-me-downs then? It's just totally bizarre. It was like she kept her money to herself basically, and refused to share it. And then she'd go and buy my parents divorced after she bought a new car with cash. Because my dad then realised how much she'd salted away. So, did you ever see? I don't have an Acorn Atom. I do have several Amigas tucked away. I think I might even have my Spectrum. I don't think I've got my Spectrum anymore, but I have got 2 Amigas. Sparker says I usually got fobbed off with some Tandy version of everything. Yeah. Tandy was alright. I mean, it wasn't as The worst one was Commodore 64. Oh my goodness. Oh, actually, no, BBC Model B, that was the worst one, actually. It's like, your parents trying to be educational and you're like, I want to play games. And now those parents regret it because if you'd got into your games early on and started programming them, you would have be a billionaire by now. So yeah, thanks Mum and Dad. Because I wanted to get onto the internet really early. We're talking like war games time, like 1980s. But my parents wouldn't afford to pay for the phone bill, and then it's like I really wanted to get into the internet. So I could have been a millionaire. Well, maybe not. I could have been a internet whiz kid. Ooh, I'm not sure about this. I think I might just dilute that. This is where tissues come in useful. How about a nice game of chess? Yeah, but I say my platforms are all stable ones. They were all they survived for many years. Theirs didn't. But yeah, yeah, BBC. I think Commodore as well. Although I'm sure somebody will pop up and go, "All right, okay, you're the Commodore." But yeah, yeah, I'm not happy about that. Yeah, I mean, the Amiga was good. I love the Amiga, yeah, but the original Commodore, not a fan. It was very much the responsible, like, oh, it's got a proper keyboard thing. It's like the BBC Model B, and it's like, well, yeah, it does have a keyboard, but I'm not sure about that. But it's like the best games are on the Spectrum because they had to be because the graphics were so crap. They had to be good. They oh, it just wants to run away. So they had to be good because otherwise the system no, not happy about that. But anyway, a +4. But yeah, I had the weirdest ones I think because no one remembers the Mematech. Mematech was amazing though. It had the best keyboard ever. It had an RS-232 port when RS-232 ports were optional things, and it had an inbuilt language called Noddy. It had like a language in ROM, so you could actually program it, without even loading a thing in, which is amazing. It was a Japanese thing, like the Sharp. The Sharp was good, but it looked like um, a checkout till. It was not. It was not the best. It was not the best thing, but it was. It looked like a a thing that you would see at a checkout. So it was, but it was it was good for learning. But the keyboard, you had every single graphic key was marked on the keyboard. So it was like this massive 100-key keyboard, one of those plastic style keyboards, like as I say, like you get on a thing, like you get on a checkout. But it actually had every single key on it, so it was very easy to do ASCII graphics on it. Not sure about that. Ish. This is not too bad. The difficulty thing about these abstracts is knowing when to stop. This is what I always used to have trouble with. Is you'd go, and you keep going, and then you'd be like, oh no, I've worked it too much. And so it's kind of interesting. It's like that's why I know they're not completely doodles. Doodles you quite often will work too much, and so it's hard to know when to stop them. So it's kind of like I have to kind of get a sense for that because I probably lost it. But I like laying over colours. Especially, I'm a big fan of orange with purple. That's always a good one. Yeah, because the orange makes the blue or the purple pop, so you can don't like on its own. It's funny because there's a colour on its own. I actually hate it. Do we have like a purple? No. Where's the purple? The thing about the graphitint is that They're quite complimentary at the end of the day. Yes, yes, they are. They're very complimentary. You made a joke. I like that. No, no, I don't like that. I like the joke. I don't like what I did there. Yeah, they are very complimentary. What I really loved was working with tertiaries, which I'm not going to try and do with this because it's just no. But I love tertiary mixing, and tertiary mixing is not taught in schools, and it's ridiculous because tertiary mixing is how you create sort of those really important, well, some amazing kind of like colours you can create with tertiary mixing. And tertiary mixing is when you take the secondaries and you mix them together. And what happens is the official story is that they sort of, they mute each other out. But in watercolour, that's really important because it's how you create those really gentle tones, but also the way it dries with the granulation, it actually creates something that is much more than just, you're not creating grey. You know, if it was something where you could just go, I don't like those. If it's something where you could just go, if it's pure mixing, if all these things were pure, and you could just mix them together and, yeah, but the pigments aren't pure, they interact in certain ways. And so, for instance, if you mix sort of purple and orange, you get like a muted, is it purple and orange? Yes. You get like a muted grey, but actually it's got bits of purple and orange in it. And it doesn't look, if you'd actually created a grey from black, it's dead. It doesn't have the same life to it. And they don't teach you this in school. Well, not in my school. And they should do, because they just go, they might tell you that it mutes it out. They didn't to me, but maybe I missed that day because I did spend a lot of time. I did spend a lot of time away from school. I did get Sky off school a lot, so but yeah, they don't tell you that. And when I found it, I was like, oh wow, this is the secret of watercolor painting. Oop, don't like that. Because it's how you understanding that and not accepting that black is grey is a shade in watercolor. Grey is not a shade of black, and if you do that, it looks like crap. White is obviously the paper, like we're doing here. So you're working in opposite. It's like is it additive process or subtractive process? An additive process, not a subtractive process. But also, it's very important to sort of layer things, but also what pigments you use is really important, and also how you mix them together. And what you don't want is just grey. What you want is colour within that grey, because then you can change how much purple or how much, which of the secondaries you add together to get the tertiary. It then, you can then change that balance, and so you get like a cooler thing or a warmer shadow, a cooler shadow, because shadows are never grey. Sid says, so complicated, I'll stay with my greys and blacks and whites for the moment. Yeah, well, I mean, there's something to be said for working in monochrome. I mean, look at all my ink work. Although even in the ink work, none of those things I showed you were actually black. Each of the inks I use is I mean, the Rotring is probably the blackest. I do have blacker inks that are actually from Japan, but they're all got, they all shade to non. They don't shade to grey. Soon as it, I can show you actually. Maybe not on this one, but because it creates a black line. Where can we do a bit of shading? Maybe here, because I don't like this bit. Right. So, look, it's like a brown. It's like it doesn't create a sort of a Not all right. I was on a thing, but say if I did something down here, then we shade it. See, it's like a brown. It's like it's quite neutral. It's a grey, but there's elements of brown in there. So you know, it's strictly there's no such thing as black and white. No pigment is that. No pigment is that. Yeah, I used to love doing that. No pigment is that exact, unless you get into Van de Black type stuff. Then you'd have to deal with Anish Kapoor, and we don't like Anish Kapoor around here. So yeah, so it's yeah. So nothing is really truly black or grey, and shadows are never truly black or grey. So they're always reflecting the light around them. So look at the shadow of an orange. You'll see that the shadow's purple. I always categorise those shades as mysteries of black inks. I'm a simple person, says Sid. Yeah, that is kind of important though. When I was doing a lot more shaded work, there's some examples from what I was shown earlier. You know, it completely creates a mood. I probably, I've used all the same inks, haven't I? I'm trying an example of that. I mean, yeah, I was using all the same inks, but when I switched inks, I quite often found that you would have this thing where, you suddenly had a completely different vibe because you were using something that's shaded more brown or someone that's shaded more black, well, grey or sepia or that sort of thing. I'm trying to find an example. Yeah. Of course, I'm using the same ink all the way through, so. Yeah. I mean, that's a good example. You can see how brown that is, and so when you use a lot of shading, you get it looks quite sort of brown, even though it's a very gentle brown. And most people go, well, that's black and white, but you can see that it's sort of, as soon as you start to use a lot of shading, you get a sort of brown shade to it. And I think the one I was using, which I can't remember what it was. It's a fountain pen ink, but it's a permanent ink, and carbon black. Not carbon black. I didn't like carbon black because carbon black shades too brown. Whereas the one I'm using is by Rora and Klingner. Well, I used to use sketch ink from them, and then I switched to another ink, and I can't remember the name of the company, another German company, and it's they do one called Documenta, Document. They do like one called Document with a K, and I would use a version of that. But I also did use sketch ink as well, which is from, but I'm trying to remember the name of the company at the moment. But yeah, it does matter. But yeah, it's ultimately it's just faffing around really. It doesn't really matter, but it can really create a mood if you use one type of ink and it's shading in a certain way. And sometimes that can be really quite useful, and sometimes that can detriment if it's more of a yellowy ink or more of a sort of browny ink or more of a cool ink. But the funny thing is, once it's actually seen as black, you don't see that. It's only when you start doing this where you shade out like this, do you start to see those shades, and all inks are different. Not sure about that. Yes. Not sure what to do more about this. Could always do another one. But how long have I been streaming for? Probably a lot longer than I thought. 89 minutes. Wow. Wow. Okay. I think we'll leave it this one for tonight. Yeah. Not sure it's finished though. I like this bit. I like where I was laying. I like laying over colours that are complementary. Though it does require a certain amount of thinking about, what's the complementary of that, which I have completely lost that ability. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking of like, we want that over that. And the obvious one is, it doesn't always work, it's purple and yellow, but there are other ones. Yeah. Actually, no, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. It's better. But yeah, it's yeah. Interesting. Maybe. I love doing this, which is, drawing into wet. I used to do a lot of that. Not a fan. This is where you should always have tissues. What did you say about working with what you've got? Yeah, but that's only if you can't change it. I used to actually work with white, sometimes work with white as well. So some of my pieces actually have, I used to use white pens and also white ink over the top. It didn't always work quite well, but I was always fascinated with, because that's the thing, is you can easily lose the highlights in your work in ink. It is one of the perils is that if you work too much. Nick, don't you still play games on PC or consoles as Smarker? Yeah, so it's all part of the thing about how far do you go, how far do you work something. How far do you go? But yeah, I will work on what I'm planning to do is, as I get back into it, I will do more realistic stuff. I might do some life, some still life, and then I might do a stream in the wild. It will be interesting to see, that if I can actually work with a phone pointing at me. I have social anxiety, so there's always a fun one. But also whether I can do it without this thing. How are we doing on battery? Oh, okay. How are we doing with this thing? I think I think I'll leave that for the moment, and then what I'll do is shall I do a quick paint stick? Wait. Let's do a quick paint stick painting. But yeah, this is what I did. Though, hey, on the side. It's not the best thing I've ever done, but yeah, it's hard to show it. Maybe there. Yeah. I don't want to overwork it. I don't hate it. But let's try and do a quick, I probably should have done this anyway, rather than getting too into the weeds. I probably should have done this anyway, because as you learn I think I did use some of the woody as well. as you learn in at college or uni or in when you're doing life drawing and painting, is to do something as a shakedown. But we'll have to move you up, and you'll probably see how untidy this place is. Okay. Right. It'll also be fun as I'm going to have to work. So yeah. Actually. I really need to get, I should have got a, yeah, I prefer to work into wet, but anyway. Sid says north and south looks like a map of some sort. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Very much like a map, which is very appropriate for my hiking. Right. I love working with Woody. I don't mean Woody. No. No, it's a neon one. Red. Yellow. Right. One thing I hate about these paint sticks is they have too many colours. I mean, it's an advantage, but it's also a disadvantage. Because you actually want to just draw. I seem to remember these I can also be, yeah, they might be very good. Right. Maybe not. Dark red. Pink. It's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess. That's what we want to do, just lay over. As you lay stuff over, it gets interesting. Go north and south. Right. And someone's going to say this looks like a kid's drawing. Why is that criticism? Right. You'd be proud to be like a kid's drawing. That's probably because these are kids' paints, or these are the studio versions. My King art. These are by King Art. They call them like studio gel pens. They're basically paint sticks, which kids use. These are all over the place, colour-wise. I haven't used in years. They're all mixed up. Careful about purple taking over. Please no. Good. I'm not sure if it looks good. I used to live stream doing paintings on Twitch a long time ago, and then Twitch changed and started making things a bit of a nightmare. So, to do with copyright. So very few of those have survived. I've got the paintings though, but the streams, it's a shame. I used to have music on the streams, you see, which is kind of weird. It's a bit odd to do this without music for me. So I usually would always be listening to music when I work. But I can't, because of copyright. Yeah. Pink, where's pink? Yeah, let's do some composites. I used to do portraits like this. That's sort of, interesting, doing like a portrait in 5 minutes like this. Don't mind that. Let's see if we can go over that with something. If it's purple, orange won't go over it, because these are semi-translucent, so they won't go over. They do a little bit. European kanji. Yeah, I did do quite a few things where I did ink paintings with ink brush. very influenced by Japanese work, by the likes of you know, the wave and stuff like that. Because I'm influenced by Van Gogh. Of course, what comes in is a lot of stuff to Hokusai, yeah, people like that, and maybe some black. I'm always wary about adding black to things because it can define things a little bit too much. But yeah, Van Gogh is a primary influence of mine. There's a few of them. Paul Klee is another one. I said on the other stream about how my experience drawing on computer paper as a kid. I would draw on my parents' green paper, and they would, I would do these symbols. And then I found Paul Klee, I freaked out because this his symbology of the world is very similar to what I was just doing as a kid, which is these sort of little, almost like little characters, which would, have their own little life. And, so Paul Klee is another formative influence on my work. Another Paul Nash. More his photographs actually, but I did like his painting work. Picasso was another one. I studied Cubism as part of my A-level, so I really am a massive fan of that sort of that style. So I don't, it's in there. It's definitely in there in my work. But yeah. Now we get into this, what I was saying earlier about, how much white do you leave? How much, when is it really finished? And that's always an issue with this kind of work, is when do you finish it? And that is half of the work in itself. Yay, scraping. I've forgotten we can do this. And this is also what you can do with these. You can scrape them off. I love doing that. So yeah, this is very different from my other work, because it's more about expression and emotion and kind of the moment. So yeah, it's not a doodle, but there are elements of doodling in it. What I love to do is put this on and then scratch underneath, especially if it's a complementary colour. Like that. Yeah, maybe not. Not a fan of that. So hence the whole, what my art teachers used to say, my chicken scratch becomes a benefit. Because we layer over and then scratch off. It's great in terms of drawings made under the constructions of time. Oh, thank you. I mean, it's you you work with what you've got, really. So the quicker you work on something, the better. Not the better it is, but the more true to the moment it is, which probably sounds like complete bobbins, but yeah. There is a lot of truth to that. You know, it's the worst thing is you can paralyse yourself with wondering about, you know, what should you do, what should you do here, and so I often find I like these paintings, or they are a form of painting, even though they're drawings. They're actually more of a painting. But the reason why I quite like them is that you can't sort of paralyze yourself with I'm not fond of the purple. Right, let's see if we can lay over there. But yeah, it's not a major artwork. But as I say, first drawing I've done in, literally I haven't done any drawing or painting since my partner died in August of last year. I last did last painting I did was his coffin. I painted I got the funeral directors to give me a cardboard coffin. I primed it, and then I painted an artwork on it, and then it went up with him, and that was the last painting I did. And I wasn't thinking of ever doing any more paintings ever again after that. So it's taken me this long to get back to it, and baby steps. But yeah. Kanji. Yes, I know Fernblick. I know I studied Japanese for a while. So I know about how they're Chinese, and then the meaning changed when they brought it in from China. Even the fun thing is that hiragana was actually created by women because they couldn't use kanji. So you've got so they created their own language, which is hardcore. The idea that the Japanese women had to create their own language because they weren't allowed to use kanji. That's where hiragana comes from. The funny thing is that I learned all of hiragana. I started learning some of the kanji, and then I got really confused about counting words. I wasn't a fan of counting words, and also not a fan of katakana, because katakana is quite. I like that now. Katakana is, it's all the foreign loan words are in katakana, and it just goes to show you how Japan is about foreign influence. It is very, very bizarre how they are, because it's there's a complicated relationship with the rest of the world. I mean, they shut their borders for centuries. Understandably so, since at the time the West was trying to push opium, but yeah. So it's not a criticism necessarily, but yeah. I used to know people who worked as gauging foreign workers in Japan, and yeah, there's a bit of a complicated thing there. Love-hate relationship, maybe. Am I working this too much? I think I'll end it soon. Yeah, I think I'm probably working this too much. I like the scratches, they work really well. Yeah, I think I might be working it too much. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a dance, really. It's like a game and a dance to kind of like do something like this, and you're like, well, you know, where do we end, and also what works, and kind of like going against the idea of you know, working it too much or working it too little. It is a bit of a dance. Yeah. I'm sure people are watching this going, this is random. It is. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, so that's the important thing, that I'm enjoying it. Yeah, not a fan of that. Don't know what to do with that, really. Unless you do some black. No. Maybe. Yeah, I need to go and make some food in a minute. I haven't eaten. I think that's probably as far as it's going to go. Not bad. I like bits of it. But I like working really quickly. It's one of the things I used to do a lot, is that I'd switch and then just go, let's do something really quickly. It means, as I say, you can't think about things too much. It's quite fun to do this sort of thing with something that's more representational as well. See if you can draw something really quickly from life, which I've done portraits like this, and sold them as well. I've sold these portraits that I've done. One of the reasons why I had to research whether these things, which are paint sticks, are light safe, was because I was selling the paintings, and I was a bit worried that people would buy them and mount them on the window and they'd fade. And it turns out, apart from the neon colours, it's all light safe. I've lost some. I can tell, not a full box. I've lost some somewhere. I must have dropped them on the floor. Maybe I lost them before, but I don't think so. Anyway, so that's a close-up. you can see a lot of. I like to work things like this scratching. It's weird because I started out really hating it. I actually quite like that bit now. And I like that bit. And I like that bit. I don't usually use letters and things actually, it's unusual. Apart from crosses. And the other one, I need to let this dry. This takes a while to dry these things. Well, they will dry quite quickly if you use it quite thinly, but as soon as you use it quite thickly like that, it takes a while to dry. It's a bit like crayon. And there's the other one. And of course the shadow of the phone is getting in the way. So, it's a bit genteel. I didn't want to overdo it. And yeah, I think it's interesting. Not the most extreme thing. But it's a good start. So yes, it's been, oh wow, nearly, how long has it been? Wow, 120 minutes. That's 2 hours. Wow, yeah, I wasn't expecting 2 hours. So, I really like the first one, says Sid, thank you. Yeah, that's more kind of my ink style. The second one is more kind of my, let's go crazy style. I probably should have done the one first and the other one. So yeah, thanks for watching. And it's been a really kind of interesting start back into drawing and painting again. As I say, it's going to take me a while to get back into it, get back into doing artworks. Hopefully these streams will help that. And thanks for the support. That really does help, because I lost a lot of confidence before John died, but my partner, before he died, but also, yeah, it's kind of put final nail in the coffin. Maybe I shouldn't use that phrase. It just sort of stopped everything, and it was kind of interesting digging out all the supplies, because I had them all stored away, but I was like, where is this? Where is this? Where is this? Where is this? But yeah, it would be nice to get back into it and do more realistic stuff in the stream, and also do some location stuff if I stream earlier. I will give that a go, because I can just go down to the river and set up my tripod and just go. But I have a feeling where a lot of people come up and talk to me about it. Good stream, Tim, says Sparker. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm worried about the safety of my phone as well, because I've got two phones, so I can actually chat on my phone and have the other one there, so I can do that easily. Actually, I'm not sure if I can actually. I just realised, because I would need to have the 4G on the other phone, and I don't have a SIM card in it, so that might have to try and work that one out. Because yeah, I really need another device to chat, so I probably can't chat and do that on location. But it'd be nice to do that, just sort of stream for a couple of hours and do some ink paintings, ink drawings of the river if the weather's not too bad, as it was like today, apart from when it started raining. I've just been filming in the garden earlier today. I've got a video I'm working on, so that's finished filming, so I need to edit that. And the Rutland is being edited at the moment as well. I'll say goodbye for today as well and wish you a good night. Thank you for the deep insights, says Fern Blick. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon. And Sparker says, sorry I've been distracted, but my art knowledge is almost non-existent. In fact, I can read it here. I don't know why I'm reading it down. Why am I reading it down there? I can actually read it on the phone here. Yeah, so the Rutland video is nearly finished for the members and should be out fairly soon. I think I won't do any more tonight because I've done a live stream and filmed a video. I need a break, but yeah, that should be out soon. But also the video I did today, which is about gear. It's not a gear video per se. It's about how to get cheap hiking gear, and that should be fairly quick to edit. I was filming charity shops today. That was interesting. And it's about sort of various ways of getting gear and cheaply, and so it's not really a gear video. It's a video about gear. Maybe I shouldn't do that with my nose because I'll probably get see, look at my hands. This is what happens when you work with those paint sticks. Things get very messy. So yeah. It's, that should be maybe out before Rutland. I'm not totally sure. Depends if I get into editing that or finishing Rutland. I'm not really sure. So thanks for everyone for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it, and tune in next time. I'm thinking of either next Tuesday or maybe on Sunday after I've premiered my next video, which is North Downs Way 6. My North Downs Way trip, that's the sixth part of that trip. That goes up on 8 o'clock on Sunday. And so I will, after that, I'm half thinking of maybe doing a live stream after that. Maybe not as involved as this, maybe a bit shorter. But this is the thing, is when you're doing artworks, you really lose track of time, especially if you're talking about the sketchbooks, that takes a bit of chunk of time as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will speak to you all soon, and have a good Friday night, everyone. And don't forget, like and subscribe. It helps the channel, and little hearts, that's always good. We should stop there. Thank you, Sparker. But yeah, I will speak to you soon.